Hey, welcome to the Hell Has an Exit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 888-699-9395 to speak to a specialist. The show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com. All right, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, Brian Alzate. Today we have Rene C here, Florida native, right? Mm-hmm. So I've probably known you for 7 years now? Mm-hmm. How long have you been clean now?
15 months.
All right, 15 months. Mm-hmm. Coming up on 18 months, a year and a half. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's just dive into it. Where are you from? What's your story?
All right, well, my name is Rene from Hollywood, Florida.
Represent.
Yeah, all day. And, I was born into the disease of addiction. Mm-hmm. So, my mom is an addict. My dad is an addict. And to be honest, life at one point was good, growing up. But, when my parents tried to get it together, right, mm-hmm. what had already happened was molestation. My dad beating my mom repeatedly in front of me, my dad going to jail for choking my mom. But I was always the one that tried to help my mom. I was there for my mom. So I was growing older or acting as an adult mm-hmm. at 7, 8 years mm-hmm. old. And then, my parents said, oh, yeah, we're going to get it together. My mom went to Bark. My dad went to Bark. And they got clean for a little bit. So in that time, I became a majorette. I was really good at what I did. I used to go to UM games.
What's a majorette?
12 baton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'd go to the UM games, the Dolphin games, halftime shows. And I was really good. Mm-hmm. I'm really good at what I did. But the trauma, right, from the molestation, from,
Were you acting out a lot before that? Or were you a pretty good kid up until that point?
Well, I wanted the best. I wanted my parents not to fight. I didn't want to be touched no more. And I was being touched by a family member that my parents had in my house while they were, mm-hmm. Using. And, my mom did a lot of abuse too, putting me in the garage and leaving me there, in the dark, just so I guess I was out of control, but I was out of control at a young age because mm-hmm. I was being touched.
Yeah.
But so ignoring that fact,
Did you ever try to tell them?
Well, I didn't know. I thought it was kind of normal, mm-hmm. But I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. I know I felt dirty, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I felt super violated. But I would break things in my room, that's how I was acting out. But when my parents got clean, most of that abuse stopped. You know what I'm saying? I mean, other than my parents still arguing, right? I mean, things seem to be all right. All right, so here's a new chapter. Mm-hmm. And I started basically being good at what I did because I'm good in a structured environment. Mm-hmm. My coach said, do this, and I did that. But being around other little girls, right, that didn't experience what I experienced, me talking about things that were happening to me or had happened to me, and they would be like, what? Well, how, that's not right. That's not right. And I felt ashamed, dirty, and I quit. I just said, I'm not doing this shit no more. Yeah. I'm not going to be here, faking it like my life is perfect when I'm hurting. So that's when the hurt set in. So around 12 years old, SelfMutilation became a big part of my everyday life. And, people would say, oh, well, what's that? I said, well, my cat. But mm-hmm. my cat would only scratch in straight lines. And I would spend most of my time too as well in mental institutions. So my parents would be like, oh, you're out of control. You got to call the cops. And of course I would go to be Baker acted. And that happened for a year and a half straight. So my door's removed from my room. Everything in my room is broken. I'm cutting myself and I'm acting out in school. So now school's a big deal mm-hmm. because I was the type of person that I'm a small person, right? But you're not gonna fuck with me, and I'm not gonna let you, mm-hmm. right? If you looked at me funny, I'm swinging on you. I'm going. I'm gonna get expelled.
What school did you go to?
I went to Olson Middle down in Dania.
Okay.
And I was like one of those, like, you know, where they had to put me somewhere where I couldn't be on the break with the rest of the kids. So I was in dropout prevention, you know, because I was crazy, you know, let alone like I didn't want you to know that I was hurting. But if you got too close to me, I was going to fight you, you know. And anything I did was to keep people away from me. Anything. It was violence, cursing, spitting, jumping on people. Like, I didn't care because I was that hurt. You know what I'm saying? Because that was never addressed. You know, even when it came to the point where I addressed these things with my parents, you know, they had already fallen off the wagon, you know? So,
so your parents never stayed clean at that point?
Right. So, you know, my parents are drinking, and then I'm going to school. But, like, I'm going to school, and I'm stuck in this one class, and I'm given these psych meds. You know, I would sell the psych meds. So I got expelled.
In middle school or high school?
Middle school.
Middle school?
7th grade. My second time in 7th grade. And I sold my Seroquel to somebody. They found the tablet, the packaging, because it's from the psych ward. I had the sheets. And because they're like, oh, man, why you sleep like that? You know, I was like, well, fuck, I'm on tranquilizer. They're like, oh, let me get some. And because I sold it to them and it was in my backpack, I was expelled from all Broward County schools. And the only school I was able to go to was South Area, which is called Lanier James, the BSO school. And I didn't fit in there either. I didn't like being slammed on the mats by bodyguards because I was defiant. I never listened. You know, I mean, it was the same thing. It was just like a vicious cycle. And then my parents are using, right? My mom's waking us up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, here goes some ramen noodles. I made you dinner. Like, bitch, that was hours ago, you know? And all that affected me. Like, and it continued to affect me to where I was like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. And I left home at 13. So when I left home, I found somebody that was just like me, defiant. But that quickly turned into like a really bad abuse. So he was 14, I was 13, and he would beat me every single day. If someone recognized me.
At 14? Or you were 13?
Yeah, I was getting dragged. When I say dragged, but my mom got dragged by my dad, but that's love, you know? So that was instilled in me that my mom didn't leave. She wasn't going to leave. So because she didn't leave, and I found that, and I felt like it was my own world, and I didn't have to go back to my parents' world. I didn't have to be medicated. I could just live how I wanted to live. It was what I thought was right. So like my first addiction was love. So I kept on looking for love that I wanted, like the nurturing part, you know, because my parents were not available, you know, and when they were available, they were like pretty upset, you know, and angry, and they were always fighting, and I would always be in trouble because, you know, I needed to stay a lot. I just couldn't, you know. And so when I moved out, so, you know, I started going to jail. So like from the time I was 13 to 16, I had been in the juvenile detention center more than 18 times.
Wow.
And then I got sent away to a program for like a year and a half.
What would people say when they like came to your house and talked to your parents? Were they like blaming your parents at all, or like?
No, they just say, "Oh, Rene is living how she wants to live." Right? You know, like it's like even now, it's like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad, Rene."
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my dad trying to kill you wasn't that bad. Me going to like hotels with you wasn't that bad, you know, but you always going back. That wasn't bad to you. But for a child,
that's pretty bad, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The trauma was like insane. But like it always fell back on me. Oh, like Renee's just crazy, you know, she's not mentally right. But that was from a lot of trauma at a very young age, you know. So I mean, like, and my parents would know where I was. A couple times they tried to come get me, and a couple times they tried to call for help. And there's one time I called for help. I said, he's trying to kill me. And my brother came. And my brother hit him with a baseball bat, but then ended up getting beat up with that bat.
Wow.
You know?
How old was your brother?
My brother was 1 year. He's 1 year, 1 day, and 1 month older than me. So we're very close. But my brother was very the type that I don't want to see it. Run to his room, close the door, you know, like he never tried to stop what was happening, you know, but he ended up having his own issues later down the road.
So then what happened after that?
So I got incarcerated for battery and strong arm robbery. and bodily harm. So basically, I beat up this girl really bad, and I took like heirlooms, gold, and stuff, and I gave it to my boyfriend because whatever my boyfriend wants to do, that's, because it was almost like a Stockholm syndrome. Like at one point, that was the way I was living, but I knew it was wrong. But I stayed because I thought I could like somehow it'd be all right. And I went to jail, and then when I went to jail, he went to jail.
And this is the same guy from when you were 13? Wow.
So for like 10 years.
10 years? Oh, that's crazy.
So yeah, because and the fact of the matter is that when I went to jail, right, I was like, wow, like I'm not getting beat. My ass is not getting dragged.
Yeah,
like
so you start thinking it's not that bad.
Right, and I turned 18. I turned 18, and I'm like, what? Like you could just go ahead and live life without getting your ass beat, your jaw being swollen, having to go to the hospital, get pins in your jaw.
Wow, you got pins in your jaw from him beating you?
Yeah.
And you would never say nothing?
No, I couldn't.
Yeah.
If someone from middle school noticed me and was like, hey, what's up, Rene? He'd knock me out cold on the boulevard. And, his mom, his dad had gotten life for murder. So he was, traumatized, and he had his own problems as well. And it took it all out on me. So he was sick.
Yeah.
But when I turned 18, I said, I'm not doing this shit no more. And then I got a job at my very first job. So like drugs are not, this is like I'm addicted to love.
This is
right?
pre-drugs.
This is pre-drugs. I'm 18 years old.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to live my life. I got a job at Firehouse Subs.
Hell yeah.
And what happened was he found out I was working there. He came there with a gun before I came onto my shift. And then they notified the police, but then they notified me that he was looking for me. They said, lock your door. Before I could even lock my door, he came in with a golf club and beat me.
Wow.
At my parents' house. At my parents' house. Because I never made it to work because they told me, hey, lock your door. The police are on their way. He kidnapped me and drugged me all the way to I-95.
Jesus.
And tried to kill me underneath the bridge. So it was like I was negotiating for my life. Like, hey, look, I'll go home with you. It's okay. Like, everything's going to be all right. And he walked down, and then there was police and then a helicopter. And I just took off the hoodie he made me put on, and I started running. And he went to prison.
Over that?
He went, for attempted murder and kidnapping.
Jesus.
And I felt bad for him. I said, oh my God, now he's going to prison over me. I'm not going to testify. I'm going to go in there and make it all right. Because that's how sick I was. You know what I'm saying? From, I guess, me falling in love with, like, basically my captor. It was such a routine for me to always say, when the police would come, oh, did he just black your eye? No, I fell down the stairs. Wow. So I tried for a long time to cover up what he was doing to me. But this time it was impossible. It was impossible.
So you didn't testify and they still charged him?
So I went to court, and the 911 call was me screaming while I was being beaten.
Wow.
Screaming for help. So that's damning evidence in itself. And he went to prison. But, that's not where that ends. He got out, right? Because they dropped the attempted murder because I just had, like, a lot of, like, bruises on my face and my neck and my head. Like I was all swollen. Yeah. And he got out after 5 years and then made contact with me again. And I have a scar on my eye. He hit me with a .45 caliber pistol and told me he was going to kill me. Wow. And that's the last time I ever saw him.
When he got out of prison?
Yeah, he hit me, and I was, like, leaking blood, and he got on a bike, and then I never saw him again.
Jesus.
But he ended up getting life plus 30 years for something unrelated to me. So he was going to live that way anyways.
So what happens later on in your story?
So, that abuse, right? I loved cutting, right? I love to, like...
So at that point, you're not really fucking with drugs at all?
No. So, it's about to turn up. It's about to turn up deep.
Okay, so after that point, how old are you?
So when he finally, like, I never saw him again. This time he was in prison. I accumulated like a box Chevy, you know, the things I liked, you know, a job. You know, I stripped a little bit here and there, but I was always too violent to stay in the club. You know, like
really?
they touched me, and then I'm getting, you know, they would put me on a probation period where I couldn't.
Beating the guys up?
Straight up.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like, you look and touch me one more time, and then, you know, I would be fired from these jobs. So like Cheetah, I couldn't go back in there. I couldn't go back into a lot of spots.
Yeah.
And you know, like I was finding myself, like what my identity really was, but I felt like I was missing something. So it's been a long time. Like, so for like 2.5 years, 3 years, I wasn't being abused. You know, I wasn't cutting, right? But like, I missed it so much.
The pain,
right? So now I'm addicted to the pain, right? And my life turned into like this whole shit show. Basically, I found somebody that did pills. I did one pill, went straight to the needle.
How old were you?
It's like, at this time, like 23.
Jesus.
Okay, and you know, I don't have a job, right? I sold my Chevy within 2 weeks of using, and then someone introduced, you know, The Rock. I always said, man, this will never leave me. This will never really, like, you know.
So you got introduced to what, blues?
Blues, yeah, blues at first.
And then you started shooting blues, or you started shooting dope?
Well, I didn't know how to at first. So my best friend Chuck, who is now clean, you know, but
Chuck D?
Yeah, Chuck D.
Wow.
Oh wait, no, no, Schneider, Chuck. Yeah.
I didn't know you guys were.
No, yeah, we grew up together.
Yeah,
we're going out of town actually this weekend.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
no Chuck, that's cool.
So I said, hey, hit me, and then I would watch him, and soon after that I learned. Because, you know, he wasn't always around to shoot me up. Yeah. So it escalated very quickly. So then I found out about, tricking, prostitution. And then that took off to introducing me to crack. I was like, wow, this is the love of my life, man. What? I'm like, I really felt like that was it. It took away the pain, but yet the way I was doing it was also like insane. Yeah. So I was the type that would stab, blood everywhere, very messy.
So were you shooting crack immediately?
Immediately.
You weren't really even smoking it?
No. I went straight to the vinegar. Yeah. And I was shooting crack wherever I could in my body, wherever I could find, because I was a rookie. Yeah. You know, so I mean, someone showed me once, and I was like, I got this. Yeah. You know, and I started doing it, and I started blowing veins, right? So that's how it started off. And then it progressed to the point where I would hide my rig in a puddle or by a bush, no cap, right? Because I don't want to get stopped on the scroll while I'm tricking. Yeah. And someone be like, oh, hey, you know.
Paraphernalia,
yeah,
whatever.
Right? Because I done went to jail for that a couple times, you know. Also, possession of cocaine.
I'm convicted. You used to hide a rig in a puddle with no cap?
I used to shoot.
Get out of here.
I used to shoot puddle water, and
because people say that, and I'm always like, you never shot up puddle water.
Well, you know what? If they've had open heart surgery, they shot puddle water, toilet water. You know what I'm saying? And then I found heroin, and so from 23 now, because now my abuser's been gone, and I thought I knew what I wanted in my life, but I didn't know who I was. I didn't know exactly what I liked, but I know I liked pain. So I'm, doing my thing, right? I was healthy when I started. When I started, I was thick, cute, whatever. And then it turned into like, I'm still tricking with these people, but I'm 85 pounds, right? Skin and bone. Like, and these people are still buying me, So like me being so addicted, I had this pattern, and I had like these, like, I guess friends, what did you call them? Street family. And I went to this place, this is like maybe like 2 years into being like no shoes, no toenails. I could never keep shoes on my feet. I always, walking into traffic, getting hit by cars. always on Federal Highway. And I said, hey guys, I'm going to buy this car from you, but I'm going to lay down because I don't feel good. Right? Because I had been already sick for months, but I was masking it with the drugs repeatedly. I lived to use and used to live. And I said, I'm going to lay down. So when I laid down, I couldn't get back up. I had a fever of 100, probably 107. I couldn't walk. And they were telling me, get up, get out. Cause I was wetting myself, because my body was basically having trouble.
Shutting down.
Yeah. And they're like, oh man, just put her in the fucking dumpster.
Wow, you heard people say that?
So these are the people that I used with. These are the people I saw every day. These are the people I stole with, what I hung out with. They said, go put her in the dumpster. And I'm still fucking breathing.
Wow.
Okay? And a trick came looking for me. Must have been like 7:30 in the morning. It was bright. It was bright out.
They put you in the dumpster?
No, they dragged me out the back.
Wow.
They dragged my body. I'm still breathing.
Yeah.
To go put me in the dumpster. And I heard like commotion, like I'm in and out of like, and I'm shaking. It's November. I know it's December, and I'm freezing, and the door's open, so like I'm shaking uncontrollably. And the trick, he picked me up and took me to the gas station, left me there, and called 911. And by the time I got to the hospital, my mitral valve to my heart was completely eaten away.
So you had already had heart problems before this?
No.
Oh, this is
all due to IV drug use, dirty IV drug use. So that means I'm taking the rig from you while your blood's still in it, and I'm shooting at me, and I don't give a fuck. Living to use and using to live by any means, And the sad thing about it was, I would suck up dirt from the puddle.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? A goddamn bacteria from the toilet. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't matter where the water came from, or, I just needed it to be in the, my rig, And what happens is when you use like that, right, the dirt and the bacteria, it settles in your heart. Right. And so
that's
like
where all the veins meet.
Anyway. Yeah.
Wow.
And so like, my mitral valve was, being eaten by the bacteria, and the vegetation was slowly breaking off, going to my head, my liver, my kidney, and my spleen, and my body was shutting down. So I got admitted to the hospital Friday the 13th, December 13th, 2013.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And
first time?
The first time.
Okay.
And they said, I don't know. We're going to try to make you all right. But my heart failed. So my heart was failing, right? So I would wake up and smear shit all over the wall because my fevers were so high. I was septic, so septic that I was delusional. I couldn't even remember names. I didn't know who I was. And then come around New Year's, my heart failed. So my heart couldn't pump anymore. So they did an emergency open heart surgery. And that's just from doing drugs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was healthy before using. And
how old are you in 2013?
I was 25. So in 2000, yeah, like 20.
So you started using at 23, and at 25 you're in the hospital having emergency heart surgery due to shooting up with dirty needles in puddle water?
Damn right. Because I lived to use and used to live. You know what I'm saying? And I was mutilating myself. Just like I would cut, just like I would get tattoos,
Sticking that needle on you, yeah.
Yeah, it was, it was a form of, self-mutilation as well. You know what I'm saying? The thrill of seeing the blood everywhere, just messy and crazy. And, not taking care of myself, And when I was in the hospital, I didn't have enough blood in my body to do the surgery. It was 85 pounds. So I had 7 transfusions. Okay. And they finally did the surgery, but I had a 20% chance of making it. And I lived.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I used after that.
Yep.
I hit the street with a big...
Did you try to get clean?
I didn't know
until that
anything.
point?
I didn't know
Didn't
anything
even know
about
what
it.
recovery was.
Didn't even know anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, I know my parents went to Bark a long time ago,
But that's
but what is that to me getting in using?
Yeah.
You know, like
So wait, you hit the streets with what?
I had a big bright pink scar, which is now like, you know, it's blended. And I had a bathing suit top on, and I'm like, you know, using out the gate, and I overdosed on cocaine.
How many days after the surgery?
It was 3 months because I had to do like a treatment for the septic. So maybe like 4 months, 3 months, and I went back to the same hospital. They said, what were you trying to die? You know you're going to die, right? And I said, well, I don't know what to do. And I left again. They Baker acted me. They said, you're trying to commit suicide because I was using against my will.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know. And like sometimes I hear stories about people and they're not using not even 0.1% as bad as you. And I'll be like, yo, I'm going to go over there and talk to them. Or like, you know, I'll still try and help them. And other people will be like, nah, bro, they're not even worth it. And I was like, you know, I've seen so many people get clean.
Yeah.
And to like the average person, they might seem like they don't want to get clean or they don't care about themselves, but like they literally don't know. Like they don't know another way. Like, and I believe that like that person can get clean. And like when I hear your story, it just like reinforces that like, you know, even when I see like homeless people on the street, like I think they can get clean, you know?
And you know, I was like that homeless person, shitty, pissy. I didn't take care of myself on my period. You know, people would throw beer bottles at me, throw empty coffee cups, hot coffee cups on me. That's how disgusting.
Hot coffee cups? People threw hot coffee cups on you?
Yeah, because I would just be like, oh, outside, you know,
Panhandling?
at the very end of my end when no one, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the bitter end, you know. People are just like, oh, Jesus. You know, like I had like, you know, barely any clothes on, skin and bones. I know I looked like shit, you know, but I still was trying to use, you know, by basically dying.
So 2013, you come out the hospital, use again, you go back to the same hospital. Like, what are these people? And they Baker act you because they think you're basically suicidal.
And they said, you know, maybe you should try getting clean because we're not going to do another surgery on you. We just sawed open your chest and replaced your heart with a bioprosthetic to save your life, and you go and you use again. So they kind of mentioned some things, but that's not where I found my hope of getting clean. I was in a hotel room, and I had no more veins left. And I just kept on being like, there's got to be something more to my life. And I couldn't use anymore. The way I wanted to use, I couldn't. There was no way of me getting high. There's no way of me putting it in my body that I was going to feel the way that I wanted to feel. You know, you could always smoke it, sniff it, but that's not what I wanted. You know, and I asked somebody. They said, "Oh, you know, Bark can give you, you know, a chance." You know, and my mom at the time, she was shit-faced drunk. She was like, "You know what, Rene? All right, you go to bed, and then in the morning, I'm taking you down there." So they, you know, took me to Bark, and I remember shooting crack on the way, telling my mom, shut the fuck up. You know, because I had rested a whole day and my veins were back, you know, and I remember shooting crack on the way to Bark and terrorizing my mother. You know, she had it bad enough with her own disease, you know what I'm saying? And I finally got there and they had H&I. And, you know,
people that don't know, that's when 12-step members bring in 12-step meetings into hospitals and institutions.
And, you know, like, you know, when I say that, you know, I was still skin and bone, you know, like I had callus on my feet about 1 inch thick because I'd always lose my shoes somehow because that's just the way I use. I don't know what happens. I lose one. I'm like, oh, fuck it. And I keep on walking. So, you know, I was beat up. And someone looked at me. Her name's Desiree. She looked at me, she smiled at me, and you know, it was like a genuine smile. Like, I know what you're going through because I am you. You're just like me, and I'm just like you, you know. And she hugged me, and when she hugged me, I felt like maybe I could survive. Maybe this works. Maybe that, you know, I don't have to suffer every single day. you know, and I had a little glimmer of hope. And so, like, I did the whole entire treatment of the Bark Pyramid, because I met somebody that was enthusiastic about recovery, that was a female that had a similar story, you know, of, you know, selling herself, using, getting, and, you know, I mean, just the whole vibe. And I got clean, stayed clean. And how I stayed clean is not that, you know, the treatment part is that I submerged myself in a 12-step program. And, like, you know, I did everything 12-step. You know, I would go down to the Keys, you know, like spiritual retreats, you know, and I would, like, basically live my life just like how I was using. I put all that energy into catching buses, you know, to meetings. And then that turned into me getting a job. And then my job just giving me a car, just out the blue. You know, and, like, it was weird things that were happening and that would have happened to me if I was using.
So you got clean at the first time, what year?
It was June 16th, 2014.
Okay, so a year after your first stint in the hospital, you got clean. That's
Basically.
pretty cool. So, like, you know, dive into, like, what meetings were like for you, like, that first year, you know, that first, like, couple months, you know, like, who you met. Did you meet other people from your neighborhood or whatever?
So, check me out. So I didn't go back to Hollywood. I stayed in Fort Lauderdale. They call that Gold Coast. And this guy got up there and he said, now, I'm going to tell you, this is what saved me. And this is what it felt like. I felt like I could identify. The guy said, just because I smoke crack don't make me a bad person. It just means I smoked crack. Or it's like more or less that just because I smoked crack and committed armed robberies don't make me a bad person. That's just what I've done. You know what I'm saying? I'm so far removed from that. And I said, you know what? I'm not that person today. Like, I'm not hopping in cars. I'm hopping on the bus. And they're so embracing to me. You know what I'm saying? I saw people with face tattoos, you know, and I saw a lot of people laughing, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. Yeah. And, you know, it's just like a whole vibe, like loving, you know, like the greeters would hug me. And then I turned into the greeter. Yeah. And then I was like that one that was like kind of like awkward, like, oh, do you want to hug? No, you don't want it. You know, and I started doing service,
yeah,
you know?
I remember seeing you, like, just pop up in, like, you know, the 12-step house, and you'd be doing the readings and, like, hugging everybody. And, like, like, ever since I met you, I just, like, you know, I just like you. You know what I mean? I was just like, yeah, Renee's my dog. Like, we were just, like, cool. Yeah, we were just cool from the beginning. So, like, you know, watching, like, I never even heard you speak before, you know, but, like, there was just, like, something in you that, like, when I would see you, it would make me smile because, like, you're just grateful to be clean, you know?
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, like, the horrors of addiction, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, my bottoms got trap doors. You know, and then I saw people just living free. There was a freedom in the rooms. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. A sense of I could do what the fuck I want because I can. From freedom, from active addiction. So I'm not chasing no drug. Now, you know, I was more or less chasing that energy. You know, I got a sponsor because I wanted what, you know, my sponsor had, because she was doing cool shit, going to concerts, doing cool shit that I never thought that was possible because I was never that person. You know, like, I was never able to find out who I was because I started using. You know, like, it stopped me dead in my tracks, and that turned me into a monster. So when I, like, you know, met people that were living their life, I was like, oh man, this is a whole vibe. We can, like, you know, hang out. And I stayed out of a relationship for a whole year, but I had got into a relationship at a year. And it was a bad decision at the time because I thought, because I'm getting better, I can share some of my getting better with you. You know, oh, I can take away some of your problems. You know, he wasn't an addict, but he had went to war.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, PTSD, you know what I'm saying? And it was one of those things that, like, I would be like, oh, well, I'm going to make you better. It's going to be all right. Then, like, I had 18 months clean. I got pregnant. And then, you know, I stopped doing the things that kept me clean. So I had H&I commitments as well. I held those for a year. And then when I got 2 years, I got a bar commitment, you know, and I was really proud of that. And I don't know. It's just that I stopped slowly doing the things that kept me clean. So I stopped going to meetings. I worked full time because now I'm taking care of a man that can't work. He can't really leave the house. He's got his problems, but I'm trying to fix that. Don't worry about it. I got it. I got it. I'm fine. My sponsor, I'm fine, you know? And I relapsed after I had my son because I stopped doing
the things you're supposed to do. Yeah, I was telling someone the other day, I was like, you know, it's like a relationship. You know, when you get in a relationship, you know, when you're trying to get the girl, you start doing all these things. And then once you got the girl, you stop doing those things. And then you realize, like, you know, why you lose the girl. So I was telling someone the other day, it's like, you know, if you want recovery, you got to act like you keep getting it. Not that you got it.
Right.
You know?
Oh, and, you know, my pride and my ego. I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. Because I didn't want you to know that I was hurting, you know? And you know, I had stopped, you know, really participating. And then when I had my son, I would tell people, like, you know, I'm fine. But I didn't really know if I wanted my baby. So my hormones were going up and down, right? And then my disease is attacking me. And I gave into that. I had like 700 numbers in my phone. And I didn't pick up the phone to say, hey, look, man, I want to use. I just used. And it was the most devastating decision. Out of all the times I've used in my life, it was the most devastating thing I've ever done. Yeah, because I relapsed. And in the course of that week, I met somebody. I said, hey, man, where we're going to get this stuff? Because I haven't been out here for, like, you know, like 2.5 years. What's going on? What's new? And, I mean, it was like just because I had got clean didn't change the way I was going to use.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
You know what I'm saying? I stabbed and dug and mutilated myself with broken needles for a week. With my son, who I had early because I had a heart condition, which was traumatizing to me. You know, he was removed from me at emergency C-section because my heart couldn't pump for me and him. So that was, you know, one thing that I didn't even get to, like, cope with. And then I'm riding around with my, you know, small little baby. He's like basically premature, you know. So it was like 2 months after he was born, and I overdosed with him in the back seat. And I remember saying, oh, this isn't heroin. And that was it. I woke up in the I woke up in the same hospital.
You were by yourself, just your baby?
No, with the stranger that was smoking dope that I had just met. And I said, hey, man, you know where to get it? She's like, yeah, I know where to get it. And then I remember parking my car, looking at her, and being like, this isn't heroin. And then I woke up in the hospital.
Wow.
I don't know where my baby is. I'm yelling for, where's my baby? I just had my son at that hospital 2 months previously. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, well, man, where's your child? I don't know.
Oh, they didn't know where the child was.
Right, but so I kept on overdosing, so they would Narcan me, and I would continue to overdose every time the Narcan wore off. So, you know, I had some really potent stuff. So that's what they were kind of focused on. Like, oh, man, like, we're trying to make sure that you don't keep on, like, you know, you're not going to stop breathing.
Yeah.
And finally, I got through all that, and I woke up, and BSO was there. I said, oh, man. They're like, where's your baby? So at this point, the stranger had somehow found my friend through Facebook and some kind of interaction, and found my baby. Yeah, found my baby sweaty in a hot car, you know what I'm saying, and brought my child to my parents' house. And at this time, my parents are clean because my parents got clean right after me.
Wow, they're clean?
Yeah. So my mom got clean a month after me. So my mom's coming up on 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So they were clean. So they got my baby. BSO was like, hey, you know what? We're going to remove your baby from your care. Okay. And I was like, wow. I said, well, I have postpartum. I need help. So they went to treat me for that problem, but they didn't check my body for any kind of infection, knowing that I had like a bioprosthetic and it's easily, you know, you can infect it very easily. So, I mean, I got treatment and I went to treatment. So I went to Fort Lauderdale Hospital for the, you know, postpartum. And then I went to Susan B. Anthony. And at Susan B. Anthony, I'm doing my thing. And my proud of my ego is broken. You know, they got texts there telling me what to do, and I was just a behavioral health tech
at another place
on maternity leave. You know what I'm saying? I thought I had my life together. So now I'm coming back. I see the same people bringing in H9 meetings, right? My pride and ego is like, oh man, I just threw 2.5 years down the drain, but I was grateful to see those people because they loved me just the same. So I was sick, so I would have these fevers and they'd say, oh, just take the ibuprofen, you'll be all right. I took that for 2 months, masking my fever. In the middle of the night, waking up in sweats, wetting the bed, like there's weird things happening. And I didn't, I didn't want to believe, but it was a very familiar situation. The fevers were really high. I'd start shaking, take the ibuprofen. I'd feel good for an hour and a half. Then I'd have to take another one because they said, oh, if your temperature isn't over 102, we're not taking you. I said, you know what? You can take your ibuprofen and shove it. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, you knew something was wrong.
Yeah, something was wrong. So then I took my temperature and it was 105.8. And then I started shaking like uncontrollably. And that's only because I wanted to use one more time, so I didn't want to feel how I was feeling. And I got really fucking sick. By the time I got to the hospital, they said, well, ma'am, you have the same kind of infection, the same type of bacteria. So, you're probably going to pass away. We don't think we can treat this bacterial infection. So it was a type of MRSA that I had before, but when you take that medication, you build up a resistance to it, so it's harder to treat, right? So my body's already knows that medication, and they basically said, oh, you're gonna die, right? And then the heart surgeon comes in, he says, we're not giving you heart surgery because we've given it to you before. And I said, well, please, man, I was just clean. I have a baby. I'm pleading for my life. I said, please do the heart surgery. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave my baby alone because I used one more time. And they came back a couple hours later and they said, ma'am, we can do the heart surgery, but we have to control the infection first. And I said, all right, I'm going to live. And then at 4:00 in the morning, that morning, just by chance and God, I had to wake up and go to the bathroom to move my IV, but I couldn't move my body. And I couldn't barely sit up. My body felt like 1,000 pounds. It felt so heavy. And I'm trying to say something to the nurse, and the nurse is like, oh man, you all right? Just lay back down. And I'm talking. What I think I'm saying is there's something wrong. But I wasn't saying anything. I was mumbling and drooling, you know what I'm saying? And then they hit the button. She's like, oh, she's having a stroke, And I remember them putting the shock pads on the bed and rushing me to go get a CAT scan or MRI. And they said, what number do you want us to call? I couldn't tell them, And I said, oh man, here it goes. And I closed my eyes. And then when I opened my eyes, the people and the lives that I had changed while being clean came to my bedside. Because they didn't want me to wake up alone. They didn't want me to die alone. And that's the power of a 12-step program. It didn't matter that I had relapsed. All that mattered is that I had another chance. You know what I'm saying? And I would open my eyes. And so my reality was different. So looking at you, I thought I was standing up on a bed. My brain is bleeding. So reality is warped, I couldn't move anything on this side. Couldn't feel it. And people would bend over to me, but I thought I was saying hi standing up on a bed.
Wow.
And then I would feel like they would push me out into the hall. That was my reality. What I remember is them pushing me out the hall and down the hall. And from everybody that was there, it's that never happened, So I had an 8% chance of living through the night. And that's what they told my parents. My parents
so
brought my
crazy.
kid.
Where do they come up with these numbers
Well,
from?
they don't
8%.
know, and it's because they didn't know if they could get the the vegetation that was blocking and suffocating me. So they didn't know how to go in. I had brain surgery through my groin. 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't know how to do it. So like the amount of bleeding, every time it bleeds and touches anything electrical in your brain, it kills that route. That route is dead. So the route that I would lift my hand with is gone. You know? The natural way, like this hand, like second nature. And, you know, and, you know, like the doctors don't know my God.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the power of like, you know, like prayer and you know, the power of just like knowing that there's a power greater than myself. There's no way that I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning to use the bathroom while having a stroke. Because if I would have had a stroke in my bed, they wouldn't have known. I probably would have been a vegetable by the time, you know, they got to me. Because if you have a stroke by yourself, a lot of people are very like impaired. You know, and I had a major brain aneurysm. So like that percentage is just because they try to use some science or give you the worst, you know, like the worst things first. And you know, I lived through 2 brain surgeries just because I wanted to use one more time.
So during that whole time, you still want to use?
I wanted to die. I made everybody, right? My brain is bleeding. I made everybody sign a paper not to resuscitate. And my child's father came in and said, "What are you doing? You know, who is allowing her to make these decisions? Her brain is bleeding. Like, what's wrong with you guys?" And a lot of them were like, "Oh, we didn't sign it. She just, you know, made us like, you know, made it think."
We just made her think that we signed it.
Right, because I wanted to die. I couldn't move my body.
Yeah.
They're telling me, "You're never going to walk again, Rene. You know, you're never going to hold your child. The most maybe you could do is sit up on your own." That's the news they broke to me. And I thought to myself, I said, I can't go out like this. I wanted to use and I wanted to die. I couldn't walk out of the hospital and I couldn't, you know, go anywhere to hang myself. Yeah. I would have somebody come to my bed while I would shit. Okay, press a button, I gotta pee, press a button, and sometimes they wouldn't make it on time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The demoralization of like what I thought my life was, and I couldn't move anything. So you know, therapy started right away, and they would come into my room early in the morning and said, "Listen, if you don't move it, you're gonna lose it." You know, and I would be like, "Oh well, fuck you. I'm trying to, you know, move my arm. It's just not moving." You know, so how about fuck you, come back tomorrow, you know? And then the next day I'd be like, all right, I'm going to try. And they made like dummies for me to practice with, like like a child. I said, I had, so when it came to that, my child, now they're saying, oh, well, she had a major brain aneurysm. The child's still young enough to put up for adoption and he would never know that, you know, it would.
Who's telling you this?
The judge. So I spent 4 months in the hospital with rehabilitation. I still had a lot of problems, you know, like walking to the bathroom. I'd always fall between the toilet and the wall, you know, because one side's heavier than the other, and I would trip a lot. But I was determined to get better.
Yeah, I remember this.
I said, I'm not gonna give up today. You know, and it was the hardest thing for me to ever do, because when your body, when you make new connections in your brain and you can't feel anything on this side, your life has changed.
Yeah.
The way you walk has changed. The way you talk has changed. The way, you know, you do anything. The way you get dressed is the way they trained you to get dressed, you know, in a rehabilitation hospital. You know, I get dressed like nothing, like 1 foot, and you know, I have to sit down. There's a lot of like safety precautions that I do, all because I wanted to use one more time, you know. And it's like they told me, well, you can't be a mom. Look at you. You know, you just used, you know, when you overdose. So this would be like 8 months. I got 8 months clean. So I made it through that event without using, you know. Wow. And that pride and that ego stayed with me. You know, now it's, you know, I'm going to get my child. I'm like, you know, a miracle. You know, like, I'm all right.
Yeah.
you know, and I got custody of my son when they told me I couldn't. I held my son when they told me I'd never be able to hold my son again, you know, and I wasn't honest, you know. I came back into the program like, oh, yeah, I'm all right. I'm cool. Mm-hmm. But really, my life had changed forever, so I'd back up my car into the same tree, right? I would drop my coffee cup almost every other day. But see, I locked those doors because I didn't want to visit that trauma. I didn't want to deal with the fact that I changed my life forever. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that doesn't bother me. Me almost dropping my son because I had I forgot I was holding him. You know, I'm going to lock that away because we're not going to address that today. You know, and I used over that. After having 2 brain surgeries, I used again. You know? And the disease is so insidious. And, you know, I really hate speaking, but, like, I speak because my friends are dead, you know? And, all I can really say about that incident is that it made me a stronger person. I just wasn't ready to face it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to come to the terms that really happened to me. It was almost like a movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm watching it like third person type deal. Like, oh, wow, that's good. Everything's good. Like, you know, good. And then, like, when the things that hurt a little bit came about, I'd be triggered. I'm like, damn, man, like, I really can't, like, do stuff like that. Or, like, man, I really hold my hand like that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really walk like that. You know, and I used over that. And the only reason why I've used, and I've heard people say this, and I know it's a fact, is because they didn't work the 12 steps honestly.
Now, when you were clean those first 2 years, did you work all 12?
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like I had a sponsorship family. I was very connected. I had H&I commitments. I went to meetings. Mm-hmm. That was my life, you know? But I slowly stopped doing those things. I thought, oh, well, maybe I'm better, you know? And I was expressing something, like I was expressing to my child's father that there's something wrong, instead of calling my sponsor and being like, yo, there's something wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I had freedom. I just didn't know how to get back there. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because I really didn't want people to know that, like, my truth. My truth was that I was hurting over the fact that my life had changed forever just because I wanted to use one more time. You know, my son's life changed forever because I wanted to use one more time, you know? And this time, well, how I got here is that I got tired of running on my ankle. Because I have drugs in my system, my body can't function under the pressure.
So how long did you use for after those 8 months?
So I got 18 months clean, mm-hmm. and then I relapsed.
Wow, you stayed clean for another 18 months?
Mm-hmm. Because I was, you know, like I was trying to, like, you know, participate. But, you know, like I said, I was lying to myself and lying to everybody.
That it's all good.
It's all good. It's Gucci, man. Yeah. Like, I'm a miracle, and he got me fucked up. Like, I'm not, like, you know, I'm not suffering, but I was. You know, like, you know, I missed out on a lot of things. While, like, I had to learn how to walk, talk, get dressed, and put little, like, pieces of puzzles together with a hand that really didn't work well, right? And so all that trauma, I just balled up. I was like, bitch, we ain't gonna worry about that today. You know? And like, you know, people would always be like, wow, I'm so proud of you. And I would just keep that, hold on to that, and be like, oh, okay. But then I started to work steps. Mm-hmm. And I was triggered AF, bro. Like, I didn't want to, like, touch those things that hurt me. And I went out. And I went out for 2 years.
Damn. So then you go out for 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have custody of my son.
Wow. So those 2 years you're using, and you have custody, and you're dealing with this medical issues.
Exactly. You know, I'm going, I decided to get on Suboxone, which is a terrible drug. I'm all for harm reduction, but that did not help me because I like to speedball. I like to shoot crack and do a Suboxone. At that point.
You would shoot Suboxone?
Yeah. and I'm going to a clinic. And I'm coming up dirty every week. It don't matter. I say, well, I got my son, whatever. Like, I bring my son. Yeah, so, I was using...
They didn't care that you were dirty? Mm-mm. That's wild.
So, like, DCF wasn't notified, right? And I was, like, pretty much, like, playing the system like that. It wasn't, like, really a problem, you know? I'm torturing my son because my son is scared of me. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Like, when I'm speaking anyways, my hand has a tendency to rise and tighten. Mm-hmm. That's just like a automatic reaction that my hand does. And on crack, okay, I can't walk. Wow. This foot is introverted in, and I'm walking on my ankle. Okay? I looked like a monster to my child. Mm-hmm. I tortured my child. You know what I'm saying? He'd be like, where are we going, Mommy? I'm like, I'm going to get a crack rock. You know? And I would fight with my child's father to use one more time. And it got to the point where suicide was the only way. You know? I mean, the getting and using I was tired. And I was also tired of crying. I was also tired, like, of seeing my son suffer. And there was this one time, you ever see a baby, like, cry hysterically for the mother? My dad made a comment. He said, your son's going to cry for you like that, hysterically, for the rest of his life if you die today. And I would still use. So, but that would haunt me, that one sentence that my dad would say, he's going to cry for you for the rest of his life. And I tried to slip my wrist at my baby daddy's house. And I was trying to bleed out. And, he called 911 and it was just messy. There was blood everywhere, and then I'm in the hospital. I'm trying to pick out the stitches because I wanted to get back to where I was, but I didn't know how. This was the only way out. Suicide was the only way that I was going to soothe my pain. And that didn't work. So I used 2 more times. And the last time I used, I had a gun I was just using with somebody that had that. And I put it in my mouth. And I held it there. And I tasted the metal. And then I had this overwhelming fear came over me that my child would be crying for me. Because he was born to the disease to no fault of his own. Mm-hmm. To make him suffer for the rest of his life because I choose to take my own life, I couldn't go through with it. And I ran barefoot to the psych hospital. And there, the person that, that would lean over me while my brain was bleeding, she would lean over me and I'd be like, wow, you're so beautiful. It was my sponsee's sister at the time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call her and I'm going to ask her to be my sponsor. Because I only knew that way is the only way to freedom. Mm-hmm. Jail never helped me stay clean. Church never helped me stay clean. And, a big part of it is that people that have been to hell, you know what I'm saying, are more spiritual, religion is for people that haven't been to hell, and spirituality is for people that have already been there. You know what I'm saying? And I got my sponsor. Now I'm in the psych hospital. I'm like, all right, we got this. I said, I need some literature. So she sent me all the literature. Mm-hmm. Now it's me, God, and literature by myself, isolated. The disease is just in me. But I knew that, from being in the program that the solution is in the literature. And I just had to do the work, And I sat there for 14 days writing, reading, only in literature, you know what I'm saying? Because from my experience and from what I saw is that I could get that freedom again. And that's how I got clean.
Well.
Yeah.
So how has these 15 months been?
Yo, it's been lit, dog. My life is beautiful, So, I got clean during the pandemic. We out here in Florida. I still hit meetings. So like, shit was wide open when it I guess shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And I still hit meetings in person, and I still got my key tags
Yeah.
while they were like, oh man, like we're on lockdown. Like that didn't stop me from being on Zoom meetings with my kid running around the house crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I knew the solution was to participate in my recovery, and it was super lit. Like everything that I do today is recovery based, just like it used to be. It's just I don't have certain things now that I learned from. So there's a lot of lessons. You remove the man and you focus on the child, right? Like you have a sponsor, you have a relationship with your sponsor, you call your sponsor every single day. There's very special, important things that have to be done on a daily basis. Without that, I'm feeding my disease and I'm not feeding my recovery, And like I have to say that like, I've had a lot of lessons in recovery as well, like who I allow in my life or what crowd I allow in my life is what reflects me, So I've had to cut a lot of people out of my life that were living dirty in recovery. I chair meetings. I have 3 home groups that I hit, all the time. And, I'm just always there, like anything. Like I just went down to the Keys like a couple of weeks ago to the fish fry in the Keys. And that shit was lit.
Yeah, I can't wait for another retreat down
there.
there.
They're doing it next year.
Oh, next year?
Yo, I was out there like, mingling and talking and like, that shit's going to be super lit. But like, I have fun. My son goes to every single meeting that I go to. Very well behaved.
How old is he now?
He's 4.
Okay, cool.
He's the size of a 7-year-old though. He
Yeah,
wears
he's
like 7-year-old clothes. But, he's young. But, he'll say the prayer with me. Like, and people in recovery don't be like, they're not like, oh, don't bring your jit to the meeting. Like, I bring my kid wherever I go, and like, on some like real shit, he passes the basket in 2 of my home groups.
Yeah.
He participates, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, listen, like, this is what I got to do to stay clean. I'm gonna bring you with me.
Yeah.
So he's all I have, And I am well connected where I feel comfortable and where I get my hope from.
What's your relationship been like with your parents getting clean?
There's some things that we don't, still
talk about. Yeah.
We don't talk about, but I still got it in me. My mom had to participate being a mom for my child because I decided to use and stuff. So, there's been a lot of jealousy. Like, oh, you think you're a better mom than me? Oh, like you did me? Like how you did me? Like, wow, you treat my son good, but like when I was a kid,
it wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that. So there's a lot of like jealousy and stuff like that. And like, I am there because when DCF gave me back my son, they said I couldn't live alone and I don't have a partner. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's a lot of differences, but I'm proud of them. Like I can like, know that they'll be there tomorrow when I wake up. They're not going to be off doing crazy, like ratchet shit.
Yeah.
So like, I'm proud of my parents. I mean, my dad, I don't know. Our relationship is all right, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, I feel that like I could love them better if I wasn't there.
Yeah, when you live with your parents, it's totally so hard.
Dude.
You got to have that distance. That distance is so healthy.
Yo, for real.
Because they be like, because, I lived at home when I first got clean because, whatever, I was young. And, man, they be coming at you for, like, crazy shit that, I remember just getting mad because they told me, like, make my bed or whatever, or something, put away this dish. Or like, and it's, like, petty little things, but, like, you feel like you're an adult and I just live there. But
right.
And then, like, there's just so much tension all the time. But when you don't live there, there's like that break. Right. And then when you're not around, they like miss you. Yeah. So then when you go there, it's like all good and all smiles, and then you leave, and then like that distance is just like super healthy. I always tell everybody, like, obviously, you know, they help out with your son, but like, I always tell you, like, bro, go into a halfway house.
Yes.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go to halfway. I could just go to my parents' house. I was like, you shouldn't put that shit on them, and you shouldn't put that shit on yourself.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because like even now, like I bought a new car because I was riding around in a crackhead car with a missing window, and it was hot, no AC. So I got a car now. And the next step is to get a place. You know what I'm saying? But it's like baby steps. You know, like and I tried to get into a halfway house actually that was women and children.
That's cool.
But it's just
so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little above what I can afford. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dang. Well, like, all right, maybe not right now.
Yeah.
But like I'll be out of there soon. But that's only because I stay clean just for today.
Of course.
Don't fuck around. You can kiss my car goodbye. You can kiss my kid goodbye. Put everything on top of the pipe, the needle, anything. You know. Yeah. That's the way I use.
If you were able to meet someone that has like a similar story to you, struggling to stay clean, like I guess like what questions do you get from people? You know, like some kid called me today and he's like, yo, I heard you, he got my number from someone. He's like, yo, I heard you got clean at 19. And he's like, can you give me some advice? And I was like, well, the first thing is stop thinking that you're different than anybody else. It's the same shit, whether you're 19 or 90.
Right.
So that's like the first thing I told him. But like we talked or whatever. But like, do you get those calls? Like, you know, because I know people are probably like, yo, Rene can help this person because like you guys are very similar or whatever. And like, what do you tell people that are like in the streets tricking, you know, shooting dope and like they think there's no hope for them?
Oh, like what I tell like my people that I know? Like I've told a lot of people that, you know, baby, like it just takes one more and he's gonna be dead, you know? And I've seen a lot of people get clean. Yeah. But like the people that I come in contact at meetings that ask me questions, because a lot of people like, I don't understand. You had like why you walk like that? Or like, you know, questions like that. And I'll tell them, I'll say, you know, that's because I used. And they'll be like, oh my, you know, and it changes their whole perception because they don't know, like young people don't know that, bro, it only takes one. And
it's not always an overdose and a death. There's all sorts of stuff that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, but like what I would say to somebody that's using is that like, or like struggling, is that no addict seeking recovery need ever die. You know, that just means keep on coming back.
There's a way out.
Yeah, there's a way out. There's freedom.
Yeah, this kid was talking to me today and he was asking me all these questions. And he was like, yeah, well, it's hard for me because I'm at this treatment center and there's this girl in there and she's like, I'm too young to get clean, da-da-da-da. And he was like, you know, sometimes I feel like I should just get clean later. And I was just like, bro, there ain't no later. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, when do you want to get clean? 30? You ain't going to make it to 30. Right. Like, bro, you're 19. You probably got 4 more years. If your best case scenario, I was like, bro, with fentanyl on the streets, I was like, you probably got 4 or 5 years. And I was telling him, like, you don't see old heroin addicts no more. Like, you don't, like, back in the day, there was, like, a whole bunch of people in their 60s that were on heroin.
Junkies and shit.
You don't see that no more.
No.
You don't see nobody that's using opiates for more than 5-6 years. There's no such thing as, like, oh, I've been shooting dope for 20 years. It's really rare. Most people are just dying.
Right. You know, I mean, and, you know, same with me. Like, I only used for a couple years. Yeah. You know, and then I had major heart surgery. Yeah. And then I used for like 1 week, dude. Yeah. And then I had 2 brain surgeries.
And that's what I was trying to tell him because he was like, oh, well, because when you're young, you try to tell yourself like, oh, I haven't used that long. But it's like, you know, like, I don't know. My sponsor used to always say like, you know, if you sucked one dick, you're gay. You know what I mean? Like you don't gotta, you know, it's like you don't need to smoke crack 1,000 times to be a crackhead. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, if you smoke crack once, you're a crackhead. All right. Straight up. It's like, bro, normal people ain't smoking crack here and there, you know? And like, you know, I always tell people it's like, bro, you don't have to be 1,000 pounds to get in shape. Like you could get in shape right where you're at.
Exactly.
You know, and he was telling me like, oh, well, people's bottoms are so different than mine. Oh, and I was just like, bro, you just got to focus on that. If you ended up in a meeting, you did the same shit everyone else did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's like, you know, like a lot of girls that like where I work, they'll ask me, they're like, man, like, you know, Rene, like, man, how you like got through that? I said, well, man, just for today, one day at a time. And they'll be like, well, you know, I really don't think I want to get clean right now, the young ones. you know?
Yeah.
And I'll say, look, man, time passes so fast, you wouldn't even know it hit you, you know? It's like you use one more time and you don't know what happens. Like, and I always like try to break it to him like that. Like, you might not identify with what happened to me because mine's on some other shit, but the pain is the same. You know what I'm saying? And you could also get the hope that anybody can recover, and a lot of them like start finding a little like hope in little things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Some don't see it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I just believe that I don't see any upside to using anymore. And like, that's what I feel like being restored to sanity is. Like when I see using, I don't see any benefit. Like what's the benefit? And like to being clean, like there's this guy who says like, bro, if you get clean and you're a thief, you'll become the best thief ever. You know what I mean? He was like, bro, I don't care what it is. Like if you just got clean, just not use drugs or like alcohol, marijuana. If you just got 100% clean, like you be the best at whatever you were doing. Like you just be so much clearer and on point. And it's like, you talk about having fun in recovery. Like I used to think like, man, if I got clean, I'm not going to have no fun. And I remember someone saying, bro, smoking crack ain't fun. But I was like, until he said that, I was like, really? Because I used to think smoking crack was fun.
No, me too.
Like to me, smoking crack was fun, but it's because I hadn't forgotten what it was like to, do something that I didn't have no hobbies when I got clean. I didn't even know what I liked to do, and it took me a long time to find stuff that I enjoyed doing. I remember getting clean and asking normal people, like, what do you do all day?
Well, yeah. And, like the important, like what I find important too is that like my experience is that like, people in the streets try to drag me to a dumpster.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then when I got introduced to a program of people that just want to hug me, love me back to life, was a completely different experience that I was not familiar with, but I loved it. So that made it easy for me to be comfortable and act a fool and dance at these, conventions when I know I can't dance at all, or, I mean, like just being with people, it's like, speaking to one addict is like, it's like a reflection, of things I find in common, and I find it like, and a lot of people like are scared to get in touch with that, like talking and being intimate with somebody.
Yeah, of course. And like, there's just like something that is like so natural in the rooms that you just feel like you can say and be anything. Like you're talking about the face tattoos. I tell people all the time, like, bro, you could walk in with like a pink dress on, high heels, like with tattoos on your face and a mohawk. And people will be like, yo, we're going to eat after this. Like there's just like a lot of love and acceptance for like the worst of the worst. Like, bro, homeless people come in, no one cares. What's up, bro? Give you a hug. Like that might be the most important person there. So it's like, I haven't found anything similar or even close to the type of acceptance that I see in 12-step meetings.
Right. And, like I don't have to be so hard. This was to keep you away, to make you think that I was going to fuck you up, before you got to me, like it was like a, armor.
Yeah.
But now it's more of a like, I'm back to being somebody that's accepted.
For sure.
Like no one gives a fuck that I walk like this. No one cares that I walk with a limp. I walk like 2 miles a day at my job.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know what I'm saying? Straight up. And they told me I could never do that, but I could do that because I participate in my recovery today. You know what I'm saying? Like I be hitting it at work, doing my job, and like that wouldn't be possible without my higher power and the program and the love that I get. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate you for coming. I know you don't like speaking, but I think, it's definitely going to help somebody.
Okay, thank you.
Love you very much.
Love you too.
This show is not affiliated with any specific 12-step program. If you or a loved one is struggling with an addiction, please find a local 12-step meeting. If you believe you may need detox or drug treatment of any kind, please call 888-699-9395 to speak to a specialist. This show is sponsored by United Recovery Project, a state-of-the-art drug and alcohol rehab facility. You can visit our website at unitedrecoveryproject.com.